Hey, welcome from Hikigai Studios. Today, in this podcast, we are going to talk about a pretty interesting topic that's close to my heart. I come from the world of cloud computing and DevOps, which is all about scale and automation. And my guest today comes from the world of healthcare, which is more about compliance, like do no harm kind of an approach. So we are going to discuss how these two worlds marry to give the kind of value healthcare practitioners could leverage today. So I have with me a really interesting guest. I'm pretty excited to talk with them. He is a cardiologist by heart or by training, but he is a AI enthusiast from after getting his career set on cardiology. He went on to do MS in data science and artificial intelligence in Stanford. So he is a pretty interesting guest, and we are going to talk a lot today. I have with me Dr. Anthony Chang. Anthony, can you introduce yourself? Talk a little more about yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Krish. I am a practicing pediatric cardiologist and with a lifelong interest in mathematics and data and artificial intelligence. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. And I am trained as a theoretical physicist, and I think we will have a lot to talk today. With that, I want to start with the big picture. There is quite a bit of noise about AI in healthcare and the industry, but all that discussion is more focused on documentation. Let's first lay the land for viewers so that they understand everything that's in front of us, as we improve our AI models and sort of go into the next iteration of where how AI can be applied to healthcare. Let's lay the land and then go deeper into each of these topics.
Sure. I think AI in healthcare had its beginnings in around 2010 to 2012 because of the advances that were made in deep learning thanks to Jeff Hinton's group in Toronto. And for the next decade or so, for 2010 to 2020 or so, was dominated by advances in machine and deep learning and how this is applied to clinical medicine, specifically in the area of image interpretation. So image interpretation really matured during that decade. So starting about, as you know, 2020, 21 to now, and probably for the next few years, there'll be what I call, so the first period is what I call computational intelligence, because that's where deep learning really was very effective in creating opportunities in healthcare by medical image interpretation, and as well as some decision support. This decade, 2020 to about 2030, is what I call convolutional intelligence, because it is sort of the human and the artificial intelligence sectors coming together to create new things, hence the generative AI period also. So Gen AI, as you all know, is creating something new from the existing training set of the entire internet. So it's exciting because then you can have things like using generative AI tools for many, many possibilities in healthcare in terms of document summarization, in terms of getting information and knowledge that are much easier than before. And then I think the next decade, since you asked me to comment on what's coming, I think will be what I call the cognitive intelligence period, in which I think clinicians will be even more important to make a contribution to how we're going to practice medicine. So right now we're in the Gen AI or the convolutional intelligence period. So the exciting thing now, I just got off a meeting where we're talking about using our deep learning for drug discovery and for precision medicine in the future. So very, very exciting decades to come in healthcare using AI.
Absolutely. In fact, you touched upon deep learning playing a role in medical imaging, and Gen AI playing a role in summarization, documentation, and probably GI, anything that involves a generative component to it. But I have a thinking that with multimodal models coming into picture and also world models coming into picture, I think we can make a leapfrog from generating text-based document to sort of even generating new intelligence or new knowledge, which will help in clinical settings, along with world models merging with robots, can even take us to a step where we will be able to do precision surgeries at scale. When I say precision surgeries at scale, one of the things I talk about while talking about artificial intelligence in healthcare is it's not replacing healthcare professionals. It's rather allowing them to operate at scale. Doctor sitting in Miami could be operating a patient in Africa by leveraging these components, like some of the developments that's going to come in the next few years. It's not there yet, but Gen AI is the stepping stone towards that. Can we talk a little bit about where the world is heading with all the new development that is in the horizon?
I think robotic surgery is still going to be challenging because there are so many nuances with procedures that are going to be very difficult for any AI enabled mechanism. But I do think where AI is going to really shine is diagnostics in terms of medical image interpretation. It's already very impressive. Also, it's going to be very big in drug design and drug discovery for different cancers, different diseases that we have not been able to necessarily cure. So I think it's interesting that most people think of AI as robots, but in fact that's not. I think the paradigm of AI in healthcare is not going to be mostly about robots. It's going to be mostly about advanced software that can really help us in the future.
Great. You sort of took the conversation in another direction, which I'm interested in, which is about drug discovery, which you brought up briefly. So, with the AlphaFold kind of models, like we have already sort of understood all the protein folding mechanisms in the universe, and now Google is working with the pharma companies to develop that will solve many of the problems we are facing today. In fact, I sarcastically tell people that one of the largest pharma companies is going to be Google in another 10 years. So, with all that that's in the horizon, do you expect to see widespread solutions to most of the diseases we face in the humankind today, or it is a hype that's going on in the technology industry?
Well, there is a hype going on in the technology industry, but I think AI in healthcare is underhyped. I think we're not, the average clinician, I think still is not cognizant of the many developments that are very, very relevant for healthcare, particularly in the area of drug discovery and drug design for different diseases, including future pandemics as well. So I think if you were to watch the movie called The Thinking Game that just came out about Demis Hassabis and his work with AlphaFold, I think it's very, very impressive how the technology there is still not being leveraged to improve healthcare. But you know, it's sometimes humans get in the way of advances in technology, as I think in the case of AI in healthcare, but you know, understandably because healthcare is dealing with life and death, and we want to be very careful deploying AI. But I do think right now we're not leveraging AI and its full capabilities, so we need to learn how to do that. It's a very powerful resource for sure, but we need to be able to learn how to capture that resource.
Is it due to lack of understanding from the side of technologists, or is it due to resistance coming from the people in the medical field, or is it due to lack of collaboration between these two groups?
All of the above, but I think lack of education amongst clinicians is a very sizable factor. And I think that will just come from hopefully more and more educational activities to allow clinicians to learn about AI and understand what it is and understand what it isn't, which is also important, and the limitations of AI and the inherent ethical and legal and regulatory issues. So I think AI in healthcare is not about clinicians you know, learning about how to program and code is more about understanding the AI as a resource.
This is my perspective. Please call it out if I'm going in the wrong direction. One of the problems I see in large scale usage of AI in healthcare is the availability of data. We have smart on fire kind of protocols to make electronic health records interoperable, and people are working on some kind of HL7 kind of standardization to make it easily available. But still, someone who had worked with building applications using Smart on Fire protocol, I understand how difficult it is, especially all the EHR companies trying to control what is given out for to use. Do you think there should be a complete rethink in the data protocols and so that data is widely available? Or do you expect, do you think this is good enough for us to get going?
Well, I think it depends on where you are. I think in the US, I don't think there's a lack of data problem. I think it's a lack the problem is how to best use the data that we have to generate conclusions and generate knowledge. In other countries, perhaps data, access to data is a major issue. But we have a lot of data. Healthcare doesn't have a big data problem. Healthcare has a problem with how to use the data problem. So there's plenty of data. A lot of data is already out there. But I do think we need to be smart about how to use the data and how to uh, improve patient outcome using the data.
Awesome. This sort of gives me a good segue to go into the other next topic. I want to talk personalized medicine and precision medicine. I'll continue on the topic of data while we move towards the next topic. That is like we have a lot of data, as you mentioned. We have a lot of data, but big data alone is not enough to move to the world of personalized medicine because some of the rare diseases come in a small segment of population. It is not widespread. If it is widespread, it is a public health problem. So there will be a lot of data available. Applying AI there is a easy problem to solve. Whereas some of the rare diseases are like specific to small groups of people. And also, like as you correctly pointed out, other countries, there is a data problem. And that with globalization, that also creeps in here. One good example in your field could be for South Asians have this narrow artery problem, which if you look at the aggregate data of population in US, you will not understand that it's a big problem. But because of the narrow artery, South Asians have many get heart attack at the age of 35, 40, and all that. Only now they are trying to understand this. But these kind of issues require the industry to look at not just the big data that's widely available, but also small data sets, which are critically aligned to either a small subsection of the population or aligned to certain rare diseases. How do we overcome this small data problem as we go about innovating towards personalized medicine?
Small data problem in the context of not having enough data or not knowing what to do with small data sets?
Both, like in some cases, in fact, for some of the diseases, maybe we don't even have data. Like, let's say if I am trying to build an app and go check out the public data sets available. Yeah, the EHR data sets are plenty. There are specific diseases like cancer and a few other things. We have plenty of data. But if it is a very rare disease affecting only a small population, getting the data itself is a problem. Without data, AI cannot help us. How do you see this conundrum?
Yeah, I think in the future we'll have to have a mindset pivot on how do we handle rare diseases. I think it's probably not realistic to think about every hospital sharing their rare disease patient populations for a central repository of data. I think we're going to start thinking about how to use edge technology in the form of federated learning. So, in other words, each hospital will not move the raw data to a central repository, but will learn about the rare patient and then use the weights from the models to be shared amongst the centers. So in other words, we'll be learning together, but not sharing the raw data together. Just like any clinician who's gone through several hospitals, they don't take the raw data with them in their head. They learn from the patients and then they share that knowledge. So I think that's the future is using technology to the advantage of learning together in the form of federated learning.
So can I make a claim that federated learning is going to be the path towards personalized medicine?
Depending on the disease, right? It's a common disease for sure. If it's a rare disease, I think that's one of the mechanisms that you can get around the issue of not having enough data in a training set. I think you can use the combination of federated learning as well as maybe even synthetic data. So you're making additional data with the same statistical characterization of the population. But obviously, synthetic learning or synthetic data, I should say, has its limitations as well. But certainly, we're trying to get around the issue of sharing raw data as much as possible.
So now that we have established a path towards personalized medicine, I want to now get your perspective on how AI is going to reshape the world of healthcare by enabling personalized medicine and precision medicine.
Well, the combination of new drugs that will be available probably in the next few years as a result of AI enabled discovery, as well as deep learning, learning about the characterization of the patients and the demographics and the responses, particularly in the area of digital twins, which I haven't talked about. Digital twin is a virtual replica of the patient in terms of the not just electronic record data, but also in other forms of data like imaging data and genomic data. So the future of healthcare is not going to be, in my humble opinion, is not going to be always randomized controlled trials, but it's going to be in the form of digital twins creating copies of your one single patient so that you can take advantage of what information is available to better serve that patient and hopefully improve outcome as well. So I think digital twins will obviate the need of some of the randomized controlled trials that are both costing a lot of money as well as using up a lot of resources and time.
Okay. So you brought up another interesting topic, which is digital twin. We call it digital health twin in our organization. So to create the digital twin of the patient, should the idea of data control as it exists in the industry change from providers to individual patients? Or you think we can go towards this era of personalized medicine by keeping the status quo in place?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see the future of medicine and healthcare be more patient centric. So the patient will own and have the data. And then it'll be nice to be able to make digital twin copies of the patient's data for prescribing precision medicine depending on what the illness is. I certainly see that as the future. Rather than everything being centralized and shared, there'll be just as much emphasis on having things at the edge for the future. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm hoping that with the cost of human genome coming to few $100 now, hopefully it comes down even further, and we can enter the era of personalized medicine and precision medicine. So, what do you expect is the timeline for the onset of personalized medicine in our healthcare today?
I think it will be another 2 to 5 years before AI enabled medications and drugs will be on the market. I know a few have already gone through phase 1 and phase 2 trials, but that's still not approved. So I think before the end of the decade, we'll see the emergence of AI enabled drugs, and hopefully that will be more closer. That combined with using AI for decision support will be the beginning of a decade or two of very, very focused efforts in precision medicine. So I would say in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll start to see real precision medicine as we had hoped that we would see.
Awesome. I think that will be fantastic if we can achieve it in the next 5 to 10 years. That brings me to the regulatory questions. So, one of the things you touched upon about some of these drugs discovered using AI is it's going through the clinical trials and all that. So now the question arises. I am a big believer in FDA ensuring that all the drugs are safe for people. I am a big believer in that. But do we also need a change in mindset on the regulatory front to make sure that some of the bureaucratic hurdles are cut down and clinical trials can go fast at the speed of AI?
Yeah, since we just talked about digital twins, I think we're going to go from randomized controlled trials and population based testing to more digital twin and individual based testing for efficacy and effectiveness. Because I think and probably will need AI for precision medicine in all aspects. So a lot of these human driven approaches are not going to be sustainable. For instance, if you look at for even drug discovery itself, it's painfully slow when you have to rely on humans, and and also rely on clinical trials. The future is going to be automation with AI and then individually tested. So, and patients will have to give us permission for perhaps a precision drug that's not tested in a population, but it's AI enabled, so that's a big difference. So, no, I think the future is very exciting. We have to have safety guardrails, of course, but I do think hopefully the safety guardrails will not be too much of a burden for everyone.
So the future of safety guardrails will be tied closely with patient privacy, with control on the patient side. Is my interpretation
Yes.
right?
Yes.
There
Yes.
is no-
Yeah.
This also requires that governments around the world should wake up to do that. There should be some organization pushing for it. US, with all its advantage in research, is well positioned to top the world. But there has to be some political organization like UN, for example, that should be pushing hard on these regulatory changes across all the countries. Only then all the advantages of AI will be equitably passed on to the population all around the world. What do you think is the right approach to bringing this transformation?
I think it has to come from clinicians and patients. And we need to have clinicians and patients have a much stronger voice in this matter and not have to rely on industry or governments. Lots of academicians are writing about regulation, but quite a few of them actually don't practice clinical medicine, nor do they practice AI in healthcare. So I'm concerned about the people that are setting the policies and the guidelines are not necessarily practitioners. So we need to give some voice to both the clinicians as well as the patients themselves.
Awesome. So that means we need a lot of education. Probably a podcast
Yes.
is going to help
Yes.
in that education.
Well, something I say is there are more astronauts on the planet than clinicians that are well versed in AI. So, which concerns me that we don't have enough clinicians that can help drive the agenda. Now, is your show based where in Richard
Yeah.
in the U.S.? Okay, so in the U.S., again, there are definitely more astronauts than clinicians that I would consider are fully AI educated and indoctrinated. So we have a long ways to go. It's something like maybe 1 to 200 clinicians with a serious AI background. And that's very, very few compared to the number of clinicians. I think the number of clinicians in the US is probably roughly 1 million physicians and roughly 5 to 10 million additional healthcare personnel. So if you do the math, it's, 0.00001% of clinicians have an AI background. So we need to have at least in my mind, 25,000 plus clinicians with an AI background to make big impact.
I think that brings to an interesting conclusion that we need more clinicians, we need more AI, and we need we need to find a way to marry these two groups. Do you want to offer any closing thought that sort of talks about how we can go from the current focus on documentation to everything we talked about today? Because we seems to be stuck in the topic of documentation. Whenever I see an article in the healthcare industry or even in the technology industry, they are always talking about documentation. How do we go from this focus on documentation to the wider focus so that clinicians get excited about the opportunities that lay ahead?
Yeah, we need to focus on education, 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 starting with the younger generation. Hopefully, more and more medical schools and health professional schools will be incorporating AI into the curriculum, both to learn about AI in healthcare and also using AI to learn about healthcare. So I'm very excited about the decade that comes up. And that will be, I think, tremendously helpful for the future.
I'm pretty excited about what is in store for us. Also, this was a great conversation. If people want to follow you and understand, I know you write a lot about AI in healthcare. Is there any website or any social media where they can follow you?
Yeah, I think right now we've set up a WhatsApp channel using AI Med as the platform. So if they like, I can offer my cell phone. They can, because it's carefully curated in terms of the people that are on there. There are about 750 people already, incredibly, from all over the world. So they can text me their number and information on my cell phone. It's 949-547. Also, I teach the monthly courses at ABAIM, which is the American Board of AI Medicine International, and that's abaim.org.
We will put the links to these two in the video notes. And Anthony, it was a great conversation talking
Thank
to
you.
about AI, and I hope we can come back and talk more about it.
Sure. Thank you, Krish.
Awesome. It was a great
Okay.
conversation.